Hello, everybody. Brian Collins here, joining you again for episode 68 of the Daily BLP. Hasn't been so daily lately. Sorry, I've been away for a couple days, just gotten really busy. And it's taken me pretty much all day, every day, the last few days to get some stuff done. But that's exciting for our company because that just means things are moving and shaking. But I've seriously missed getting in front of you guys and kind of talking and sharing a little bit about what's happening and, looking at things, what's happening in the world and how it affects us as entrepreneurs or small business owners or people in the world looking into getting to starting a business or anything like that. So what have we got for today? Well, a little review. I've been working on a couple of big deals. An organization here locally reached out to us about helping out with a big project they're trying to win. That could be a great win for us as well, too. Always love to partner with local companies doing things that we aren't necessarily doing, are value adding to things that they aren't doing, and finding a way to make new business happening, from coming together. So that could be exciting. It's kind of like it's like hitting a moving target at this point. A little bit of guessing game as far as how to spec this thing out, pricing goes, because we need to make sure it doesn't bust the deal they're trying to create, but we also have to make sure that it is a profitable endeavor for us as well. Another big one in the pipe, not big for me because any new client is big. I've been working on a new opportunity for the IT side of the business. Opportunity about an hour and a half away here in Wisconsin, a manufacturing firm looking to get just some better support and services, and going to be heading out that way tomorrow to present to those guys. So that's exciting. Looking at making some changes on the way we, generate leads and things like that. And I'll have more to report on that progress as we go. But, it's been kind of a weird couple days. Lots of stuff happening in the world today affecting, our world as it comes to doing business in the United States or globally. The big thing right now that everybody's talking about is this government shutdown deal going on. And this happens every couple years, sometimes yearly. It gets to this time of year, and budgets aren't approved, and everybody says, "Oh, we're going to shut the government down until we figure out what everything's going to cost." I'm not going to get down into the nitty gritty of what the government shutdown looks like, and who does what and who pulls and whose fault it is and things like that. I'm trying to look at it from a what's going on. How do we look at it from a left, right, and center perspective? What's everybody's thoughts on it? How are these different areas, trying to spin things to get us to feel a certain way about this? I mean, honestly, myself, Joe and Manny, as partners in business since 2016, we've been through a couple of these, and I can't tell you that we've ever felt anything from it. Maybe it's because the line of business we're in. Maybe it's because we didn't know any better and we just kept working. It's kind of how things went in the COVID world, some adjustments, but you just keep working during that time frame. But, government shutdowns, I think, if we're watching the media, we're hearing it on the radio, or seeing it on the news, the whole thing that they're doing anyway is to try to spin things in a way to keep our eyeballs and our ears attached to what they're doing. Maybe that's not that much different from what I'm trying to do here. But I'm not going to spin anything to get you guys to come here. I'm just going to try to give my honest perspective and what I think all this means as far as, the life of our business and how we affect the world with our services, and, how our employees come to work day in and day out and do a great job. So the whole thing, as of midnight today, it looks like the federal government is shut down after Congress failed to pass a continuing resolution. The other facts are about 800,000 federal employees are expected to be furloughed. Many others may work without pay. So I've been furloughed before. Years ago, used to work for the Boy Scouts of America as a district executive. And right as 2008, when that big financial crack happened with real estate and all that kind of stuff, and the industry went in the gutter, it was tough. Because as a national nonprofit and that's kind of locally organized its own 501c3, we're completely responsible for raising our own money and funding the program. And At this time it was 22 counties. Me and my coworker at the time, he was actually my supervisor. But we basically had the same job. He just had to make sure I was doing a good job of doing what I was doing because I was greener at it. We were responsible for 3 counties in a certain area. And man, I can remember that year, it was late summer. I don't remember the exact same dates, but it would have been, after the crisis and these things started to kind of domino effect down. Our fundraising, both our corporate fundraising and then we had corporate and then family fundraising. We fundraised from the people in the program and the communities that we served in as well. And it was down, gosh, I couldn't tell you the percentage, but it was down enough to where we had a organizational wide meeting. Everybody got together and the CEO said, "Hey, we can't over the next 2 weeks, this time, we have to furlough you guys." I don't remember. I didn't even know what that word meant. I had to look it up. I can't tell you how long it was. It was only maybe 1 or 2 pay periods. Maybe it was longer, maybe it was less. I don't remember. Gosh, it'd be a cool thing to get that person on. To talk about it and what it was like going through that. But yeah, that was interesting. My wife and I, we didn't have any kids at the time. We were pretty paycheck to paycheck, but we made it work. She was working, I was working. We didn't starve or we didn't have to sell a bunch of stuff or, we didn't freak out. We made it. It was okay. But it was a weird time. It was surely a weird time. So 800,000 federal furloughs or employees are expected to be furloughed, and some of those may have to work without pay. Not sure, maybe it's that those folks, their duties are essential and they can't stop doing them, but they're not going to get any pay during those times. Now, what will happen is this will go on for a few days, weeks, or whatever. Government will get back in place, get back to work, and they'll be back paid. They're going to get paid for that. But I can't say that those folks won't be uncomfortable for a while. Essential services, Medicare, Medicaid, TSA, all those will continue, but many federal agency functions, like it says here, SBA loan processing, new permits, contract administration, those things are going to be paused or delayed. Also, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce estimates small business could lose $100 million in loan financing per day, while SBA operations are down. So I don't know how much, the source here that put this information together for me understands what SBA loans are about. Oh, that would be a really good guest. I think I should bring her on. I've got a contact in the SBA that kind of taught us here about how that all works. That would be I think this would be a really good show. And we're doing show production right here, right now, planning, boom. I'll make that happen. Anyway, back to so layman's, SBA doesn't loan any money. I didn't know this until a couple months ago, maybe 2 months ago, 3. The SBA is a government agency. As an agency, they don't loan any money to any businesses. Fact. What they do is the SBA guarantees a percentage of loans that lending organizations, banks, things like that lend to businesses like yours or mine, right? So for certain types of things, maybe it's a loan to build a new warehouse if you're, shipping things, or you're a 3PL, or you're a manufacturer that has inventory, or you need a big warehouse to put your machines in. Maybe it's to build a new office because you're expanding. Maybe yours got blown down or something, whatever. Loans for acquiring other companies that could be profitable, that they don't want to do it anymore, and you're going to buy them and acquire them, and you're going to bring in those profits. Operational expenses, you name it. So those type of business-related loans that a business is going to need, doing it via SBA loan, it's very, it seems like the SBA is loaning, but they're not. Banks are actually loaning in these programs. The SBA is backing them, guaranteeing them to a certain degree, saying, hey, if you loan to, let's say in this case, Panacea Smart Solutions, for X amount to do this, if they default on the loan, then the SBA comes in and takes care of a portion of it. So the risk for the bank is a lot less if it's just a straight up business loan. That's how those work. So I don't know what the back end processing looks like. I mean, maybe, we're going to be meeting with the bank here in a couple of weeks or maybe a couple of days. I don't know, whenever we set our schedules, and we're going to be talking about doing an SBA loan for certain things. If, if that all goes through, maybe they have to send that paperwork to the SBA so it gets processed and the SBA know it exists and they'll back it, whatever. I don't know. I don't know how that works. But maybe some of the back end processing is the SBA actually recognizing a company like me is registered with the SBS Small Business Administration, is actually registered with the Small Business Association so that we can be a part of the SBA program. But if you're already in, you're in. Maybe that's what it is. I mean, I don't know exactly how it's going to affect that. Maybe getting a hold of my contacts there and bringing them on would be a good thing. Maybe I can do that and make that turnaround tomorrow. We'll see. So those are some of the facts, as it relates to what we're talking about here on the business line every day. Couple different perspectives. So let's say those news outlets and folks and media folks, whether it's been mainstream or your influencer media, they're saying, let's say on the left, they're saying these critics are arguing that the shutdown is a deliberate political maneuver, and it's kind of being done at the expense of everyday Americans. That's a spin. They emphasize that vulnerable communities and smaller enterprises like this one, I guess, could get squeezed the hardest. We'll see. I mean, again, been through these in the past. Didn't really feel a squeeze. Some of these guys are pointing out federal safety nets, social services, assistance programs could be at risk, which, that affects consumer demand, could hurt small business or low income or rural markets. They're calling for immediate action by Congress to restore funding and protect the backbone of these different economies. So again, my business doesn't represent every different type of small business, because different type of business clientele, they get their revenue from different folks. And if some folks are hurt more than others, so be it. That could affect them more. But from my perspective as a B2B business in the tech and managed services space, I don't really foresee, this temporary government shutdown is really meaning anything. All right. So what are right-leaning folks saying? Some conservative voices, they're framing this shutdown as kind of a necessary response to unchecked federal spending and deficits that they just keep blowing up. Their narrative is that the government's got to be restrained, expenditures got to be curtailed, and shutdowns are one of the levers that can be pulled to put some pressure on things. Others are saying that in a shutdown, markets historically absorb the shock. Private enterprises carry things forward. A few folks argue that economic damage will be minimal and short-lived. I think this is probably typical of what happens. But either way, both sides of this coin, they're going to use the opportunity to try to promote their narrative, right? One side's going to say A, the other side's going to say B, and they're typically going to be opposed. And really, to all of us, we're just kind of marching forward and moving along in whatever our productive or consumptive capacity is, right? We're just gonna move forward, whether the government's doing anything or not. Now, typically, these two sides, typically it doesn't mean completely representative. Government's way too big on both sides, but conservatives are known for trying to shrink government a bit. Liberals are known for expanding it to be as big as possible and to control as much as possible. I'm more of a guy that says, stay out of my business, let me do my thing. Keep, government, keep people doing the legal thing, but stay out of my pocketbook kind of thing. But the center, let's talk about the center, because that's usually squeezed out. And they're kind of like, milk toast or, warm water. Nobody really wants to drink it. But what centers are saying is that shutdowns, they do disrupt things, create some uncertainty, but historically they tend to not really leave a long-term impact and cause much problems. It's the length that could impact things the most. How the longer it lasts, the more it could cause things to happen. Moderate voices urge small business to ride out the storm. Just put your head down, get to work. That's typically what I try to say too. Don't panic. Put your head down. Put your blinders on. Don't get distracted by shiny things happening, and let's get to work and let's go get some stuff done. So yeah, I mean that's how that goes. So I've got a table here that I want to just run through quick. That it kind of talks about, what are the impact areas, what's happening, and then why it matters, right? So if we were to take the impact area of financing and credit, for instance, like I spoke about before, SBA loan processing is technically going to be halted. So what's the big why that matters, right? Would be, like I said, from one perspective, it damages access for undercapitalized business. From the right, it reinforces the need for self-funding or private credit. Here's what I'm going to say. As much as possible, try to operate your business in a way where you're not leveraging either. You know what I mean? If you've got, and this doesn't apply to all businesses. Some businesses, you got to use OPM, other people's money, right? To get to a place so you can do the things you need to do, sell what you've created, pay back other people's money, take the cream off the top, right? And then boom, 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 boom. You keep doing that over and over, like real estate, investing, those kind of things. You're using OPM a lot. That's what you're doing. Typically in those things, government, they don't care if the government shuts down. Hey, government shuts down, they're not knocking on my door for some stupid reason, right? I don't know. But, for the most part, when you get your foundation, get business ready, show that you've got a product that adds value that people are willing to be paid for. Way before you ever get the notion in your head, you need to accept a bunch of big money from some place, the government, from some body, an investor, to blow things up before you even really know what you're doing. Another key impact area, contracts and permits. Federal contracts, they're going to be delayed. They're already delayed. Like, you can't expect those to come in fast anyway. Permit approvals, especially for business tied to federal works, those things stall. People in the center, they're warning about knock-on effects in supply chains and infrastructure projects. So infrastructure projects that government contracts are funding private business to take care of those infrastructure projects. If those things delay, then the projects are going to get pushed out. And those projects are pushed out, whether they've already begun or haven't started, that's going to affect those contracting companies, operating expenditures. Maybe they got to lay some people off until the project can go back up. There's all kinds of things. And we've been looking into getting into government contracting work more and more. And that's the gamble you take. There's a lot of money to be made. You got to be able to follow through on the contracts you win, but that's part of the gamble. Nothing's guaranteed. Foot traffic and local sales is another impact area. So all the businesses around, like these federal businesses, it's their own economy in itself, right? There's millions and millions and millions of dollars generated by businesses that do business with federal employees, right? A lot of them in the last few years have been working from home. So there's probably a lot of door dashing, a lot of, things getting delivered. That business could be impacted. People getting their daily coffee, thousands of people stopping at their local coffee shop on their way walking to work or driving to work, or all these things. Those things will be impacted if they're not doing those things, right? It's a real impact. It's really not going to, there's not enough of that's going to affect like major GDP or any of that kind of stuff. Heck, in the long run, maybe the people that were doing that, they don't do that. They save a little bit of money. It's going to impact the businesses. They're going to be fine. They're not going to have to close the doors for a couple of days or a couple of weeks of that kind of thing. Data forecasting, shutdowns halt official economic releases. Okay. That can increase reliance on private data. Fair enough. Okay, no big deal. People in the center warn that bad data could lead to missteps, especially around monetary policy. Listen, this is over my head. And if you're a small business person, It's probably overhead your head too. If you're understanding that stuff that I'm putting down at a high level, then either you're really into that stuff and you're super smart and that's a hobby of yours, or that's how you're making your cash. Good on you, bro. But for the everyday person, like maybe I should be paying attention to a little bit more what all that does and how it impacts things. But again, where the rubber meets the road, when we're working our marketing, our sales process, looking for leads, meeting with them, trying to close deals, trying to onboard them, delivering services, getting paid every month, murky data leading to missteps around monetary policy, whatever, right? Confidence and sentiment. Business owners, especially small ones, may delay hiring, investment, and expansion plans. Maybe certain ones, maybe the ones that have government contracts, they're going to have to wait for that. They're going to have to wait for their SBA loan to have enough liquid on hand to hire 30 people to start that government project that they got contracted on. Well, if the government can't process the contract or start the contract on time, then there's no need for the business to have that loan yet to hire those people, right? So a lot of this is kind of like, my son saw that. He wanted me to say 6'7", even though I don't even know why that's a real thing. But the left sees this as evidence of political dysfunction. The right warns of overreaction. Now, this is a totally natural thing. Like every year, this time comes around, and it's either one side that has control, tries to delay things to get what they want, or the other side has control to delay things to get what they want. Right now, the right has control. I think they're trying to delay things because the left wants to spend way too much money. I'm totally fine with not spending too much money in the government. Okay. We already spend more than what we take in taxes, and we already take way too much in taxes. If you're listening to this and you don't think so, you got to look deeper into taxes, because it's ridiculous how much taxes we pay. I pay a lot. I pay people a lot of money to help me make sure I pay my taxes every month over what I know I'm going to need to pay at the end of the year, so I don't get my butt in trouble. But I mean, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And we have a big government doing a lot of fancy things. We have a big old military protecting the whole world. And I'm not going to get down into, way down in on that, but I'm thankful and grateful for what we have as a country. But I mean, it's crazy how hard you have to work just to make half or more of your income go away to pay for people doing jobs. And now if people are doing jobs that are absolutely needed, absolutely necessary, and they're doing a great job and they're working their butts off, okay, amen. But I think we've learned over the last year that there's a lot of shady stuff going on, whether it's companies in the private sector taking advantage of contracting loopholes and getting paid for things they're not really doing, or whether it's public sector or nonprofit sector organizations taking advantage of grants and contracts and all these kind of things to either forward things that are dumb and unnecessary, or, only work 20 hours a month, you know what I mean? And say they're working 160, so anyway, that's my 2 cents worth on that. Again, impact wise, I don't know that, listen, the world's not going to end. We're all going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Tomorrow could come, something bad could happen. We could lose all our clients. We go out of business. Not very likely. It could. And I hope that doesn't. But what I'm going to say is, if this government shutdown puts your small business or your business in a place where you don't know if you're going to be able to pay your people and operate tomorrow, you got bigger problems to resolve about your business. I don't know of very many businesses that are losing any sleep over a government shutdown. Maybe some government employees, maybe losing some sleep. And I pray and I feel for those guys. But that's the reality of working in government. Government is a very secure job. very hard to get fired from a lot of different positions. Not always have to be super accountable. We're learning that over the last year. But one of the gambles is, hey, the people of this country and their representatives have some control over whether or not we spend a certain amount of money. And if we can't agree on what's going to be spent, then some people are going to have to go home and unfortunately deal with some suffrages for a while. I don't like anybody to have to suffer. And I hope nobody does. That's honest to God truth, but it's just the reality of how things work. Hey, and otherwise, we're going to wrap this thing up. Stay alert, pay attention to these things, but don't lose sleep over it. Focus on what you got to do. Keep the main thing the main thing. What do you got to get up and do tomorrow? You married with kids, kiss your wife, give her a hug, love your kids, get them to school, get them to work, whatever's going on. And whatever your responsibilities are, do them the best you can to the glory of your God and just get it done, right? Let your head hit the pillow at the end of the day, knowing that you've done everything that day, to, say that no regrets. I got it done that day. I worked hard. So that being said, everybody, that's all I've got for you today for episode 68 of the Daily BLP. My name is Brian Collins. It has been a joy to be with you. Can't wait to see you guys again tomorrow. But until then, looking forward to having a good night. I hope you guys all have a good night too. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.